Hello there.
Welcome back to Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Jacob.
I'm Eli.
And in our 35th episode today, we are going to be continuing our chronological watch through of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and we're going to be talking about the Blue Shadow virus and Mystery of a Thousand Moons from Season 1. So let's get into it.
That's what we're doing. First, before we get into it, I just want to say Happy 2021, everyone. This is the first In a Galaxy episode of 2021. We're wishing everyone a Happy New Year, and yeah, let's get into this. So let's get into, of course, we got our fortune cookie. The infamous fortune cookie. Fear is a disease. Hope is its only cure.
What did you make of this one? Because I thought it
loved it.
Really? I thought it was a little weird. What did you like about it?
To be completely honest, I love this. It feels like a message that we all need right now, honestly. You know, there are going to be a lot. You know, I remember in our final episode of Season 1 of In a Galaxy, a long time ago, we were talking about the line that Karth said, being KOTOR, the whole planet's under quarantine, and how it took on new meaning as we had to enter a literal quarantine. Gosh. This arc is so relatable in a way I never expected it to be, because they were about to be in the midst of a galaxy-wide pandemic, and we are now in the midst of a global pandemic. And
yeah,
it hits hard.
It's a little too soon.
And you know, fear is a disease, hope is its only cure. You know, there's a lot of fear going around of many different things, and it feels like, you know, I was rewatching The Last Jedi the other day. Hope is like the sun. If you only believe in it when you see it, you'll never make it through the night. It feels this whole thing, fear is a disease, hope its only cure, very Star Wars, very like the power of belief and hope, and it's light versus dark all over again, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think
maybe it's a little corny, but like, you know.
Yeah, getting into some of my thoughts, I don't have a good my thoughts are a little scattered on this episode, so I apologize for not having I don't have something good to bounce off of that, but first off, you know, we have the announcer said battle droids on Naboo, and I thought, oh, what, this again?
Nothing about the fortune cookie? Just wondering.
No, nothing about the fortune cookie. I was just gonna say I thought it was a little weird. I didn't really think it fit very well, but
okay, that's
maybe
fair.
there was just something that I didn't see.
That's fair.
What I did notice, if we're gonna start from the beginning of this episode and kind of work our way through some of the main points, I think Jar Jar here is better than in the movies. I'm gonna be honest. But still, in the scene when they're kind of interrogating,
and then he makes the
tactical droid,
shelves collapse,
or just the regular, and then I think he gets his head stuck in a droid dome. He's trying to eat this bug, and his tongue gets stuck in some gears, and like I think the juxtaposition of that combined with us, like the episode trying to frighten us with the breaking news of this virus and kind of the awful realization that something really, really insidious and dangerous could be at work here.
It doesn't work.
It's kind of it seems kind of outrageous to me. I'm not going to say it works or doesn't work, but I just think it's outrageous. I think Jar Jar's antics I will say that they undermine the tension and the seriousness of the moment. But I think that could be on purpose, given that we're in Season 1 of what is ostensibly a kids show, especially at this point.
The Clone Wars is a kids show.
I'm serious though, like as it's rolling out, like
it's meant to be a kids show, audience. But like, you know, I
wouldn't be surprised if they use Jar Jar on purpose, because
there are rules and then there are exceptions.
This is a really kind of dark arc, and I think that Jar Jar is probably being used on purpose, and maybe now for anyone who isn't like a small child, maybe it feels jarring, but I think that this is kind of maybe what George Lucas was going for. But I think that Jar Jar here is just a bit less of a facepalm inducing.
Oh, I don't know. For me, I feel like there's only one Jar Jar, no matter what form he's in. I feel like he's always the same amount of annoying to me.
Really, because I feel like he's different. I feel he's more, I don't want to say competent, but I want to say he's more important in the Clone Wars.
He talks more competent. He doesn't do more competent.
Well, I think he does. Like, think about, I know that he does almost screw up the entire mission by destroying the droid. I know he is super clumsy or whatever they want him to be, and his actions lead to a lot of truly catastrophic screw-ups. Like in Bombad Jedi, he crushes Padme's spaceship. Also,
the ship gets destroyed.
Like he's just kind of responsible for the rescue, and he ends up saving the day. So I will say that he does get more dimension from that.
I will say, jumping a little bit ahead, sorry, to the Mystery of a Thousand Moons, I do find it insanely cruel that of all of them, the only one who doesn't get the Blue Shadow virus down there is Jar Binks. I'm like, why do you do this to us? All the characters we love have the Blue Shadow virus, and the only character that annoys us, of course, is spared.
I'm gonna be honest, though, I'm growing. Like, I think my heart is thawing a bit for Jar Jar. I don't know. He's more relatable.
I think my heart's hardening, if anything. Actually, I think I was the one who cut Jar Jar more slack than you did in the past, and I think our positions are reversing.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I gotta say, I know you were saying Naboo again. I like seeing Naboo again. It almost made me want to see like the prequels in Clone Wars animated style.
Oh no, I'm not saying I didn't like seeing Naboo. The premise of a droid invasion, though, even though I'm really just talking about that specific line, just makes me think, oh my gosh, this again. Even though it's totally different, but I do think that there was some beautiful animation. They're only very brief, but a couple of the wide shots where it's just one ship moving across this panoramic painting, I assume, or depiction of Theed and the royal palace is just it's just truly stunning. I might have to post it on Twitter and say something about it, because I think it's that it's that beautiful.
Naboo is a great planet. I love Naboo. We've had so many guests on In a Galaxy say, you know, you have that question about vacation, where you'd spend it. There are so many people who'd say Naboo.
I gotta update that question, because too many people say Naboo. I gotta think of a different question.
Yeah. It's really, really fun, and I like seeing Naboo again. What do we got? C-3PO at the beginning of this episode has a bad feeling about this, which is our low-hanging fruit. Let's see if I have other low-hanging fruits in here. I've got some. Obi-Wan's talking to Anakin about Padme, and mirroring him also talking to Anakin about Padme in Attack of the Clones. He says, "You seem a bit on edge." What else? Let's see.
On that note, though,
that's yeah.
On that note, it seems so insanely obvious that Anakin.
I know, right?
With Padme in this episode and the next episode, in Mystery of a Thousand Moons too.
How did they not? How did they not? It's ridiculous.
I know it.
Yeah, I also love Padme at the beginning of this episode. She's like, the Jedi Council are like, yeah, we can only spare a couple Jedi. Hey, maybe what about Anakin and Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
No, for no reason, just I think they'd be good at this. Kenobi has some familiarity with the Gungans. No reason, absolutely not. No.
That to me seems so. Of all the things, that seems incredibly imprudent of her to actually just ask for Anakin. You know, like, I get that Anakin would probably like kind of try and manipulate his side of things to get near Padme for a bit.
Now that's the other question I have.
Opposite sides of the galaxy, but
given that Padme is in like every political meeting we ever see in the Clone Wars, and now she is like manipulating her way into being with her husband more, how much political power does she have?
She must be. I mean, I've said this before, and this only makes me think it's more true or truer now, that she must be one of the most influential politicians.
I mean,
like, of all time.
I should hope so, but then again, we'll see later on in the show, seasons 3 and 4, if she's so influential, she's not doing a great job of getting her message across.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've touched on that before. Like, we keep being told by the story, she's a great negotiator. She's the person who can bring people together. But we never see her convince anyone. She always just ends up saying, no, please don't join the Separatists. No, you have to believe me. This is a mistake. Or
even when she does make big speeches, they get ruined by something or the other.
They get ruined by, like, assassination attempts or
whatever, and then everyone's frightened off, and, you know. Anyway, so they break into a secret Separatist lab where they're making a disease... no, they're not making it, sorry. They're reviving a dead disease called the Blue Shadow Virus. The Blue Shadow Virus is being manufactured, I guess revived again, by Dr. Nuvo Vindi, which, by the way, when I heard the name, I knew Nuvo Vindi with the doctor. When I heard that name again, I was thinking back to the conversation we had with Jared from the Nerd Academy podcast. Subjugator class, malevolence, Nuvo Vindi. Are we sure we're not the bad guys?
I know. I mean, Nuvo Vindi.
Nuvo Vindi is the most evil scientist name I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting character because he kind of gives off like a. I mean, he is obviously a mad scientist. He kind of gives off a maybe German World War II Nazi scientist, like in the movies.
That's weird that you say this. I literally wrote down. He's like toned down client mixed with Dr. Pershing.
Yeah, but he acts so wildly, and he's kind of so overblown.
Yeah,
that it undermines his ability to be feared. And I think
I don't know. I half the time I think I love Vindi, and half the time I hate Vindi.
They try and do this whole. They try and Thanos him before Thanos in the movies. Before Thanos in the movies was a thing. He has this whole thing about how no higher life forms and humanoids are the real evil, and we gotta let the viruses take over. And I'm doing the galaxy a favor. I feel like that would have been a really interesting idea, but it didn't really get fleshed out enough.
It was a stupid idea. He was saying, what was it? There's a line in here. Spreading the disease of war. You're joining the Separatists, sir.
But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's not a true believer. Maybe he just, obviously, maybe he doesn't realize that he's probably getting manipulated, and the Separatists only want it for they only want his virus for its chemical warfare or biological warfare.
The Separatists are involved in a war, and he's saying maybe we should wipe out all people who wage war. Like, that is just so what?
I mean, that's a good point.
That doesn't make sense. I gotta say, I don't know if you noticed, I love his penchant to say yes like 17 times in a row.
Oh, he doesn't say yes, he says yeah. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, like, what's that about? That's so cool. That's so funny. Like, there's part of this episode, honestly, when we see the Blue Shadow Virus, if we see the Blue Shadow Virus and we don't see Nuvo Vindi, this episode has a very scary sci-fi, you know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
It has but like whenever Nuvo Vindi gets in there, it feels like it feels more like a cartoon. You know, I was talking last week, Trespass, the new vibe, the darker tone. I feel like that's all but gone in these.
Really? I feel like these episodes had the potential.
They had the potential.
Really, really dark.
They didn't really do anything with it.
I mean, I don't think they delivered on it. I think that this arc would have been much better placed in a later season of the Clone Wars, when they do get into some darker themes.
Their footings, yeah.
Like, I mean, we can touch on this more later when it really gets dire. But yeah, I feel like the feeling of desperation, they really could have played that up more in these episodes. But I think that at this point, you know, they're still Filoni and the crew. They're still like really just trying to make a show that'll do well on the Cartoon Network and get the kids interested. So, you know, I don't blame them.
Also, did you notice catching this episode? Like,
Pardon?
Everyone catches perfectly this episode. Somehow. Like, everyone. Regardless of, Like, they're constantly, like, the blue shadow virus canister is constantly being thrown in the air. Everyone catches it without fail this episode.
But that's
miraculous.
That made me think, though, and they're always like, "Oh, catch!" And he's throwing the canisters to try and distract from his escape. Nuvo Vindi, that is. Why isn't he, or not him, but why wouldn't Anakin and Obi-Wan use the Force to catch them? It seems like they don't have to do all that elaborate stuff, but maybe there's something I don't get. Who knows?
Probably, I would think it would be, like, the only explanation I can think of is that, like, it's that rush of battle, and, like, sometimes, they're just trying to keep
don't have time to
a global, like a galaxy-wide pandemic from happening. Yes, they can use the Force to catch it, but you don't really think, like it's a danger sense. You don't really think, you just act on instinct. And I think that instinct for them is not using the Force because, the Force is still just a tool, you know what I mean? It's not, like, literally, like, it is literally in you, but, like, you have to exert effort and think about how you do it, you have to do that visualizing thing, and, like, yeah. Yeah, so, let's see. Do you got anything more about this episode?
I have a few things I want to talk about.
Go right ahead.
First off, I think I found maybe a Palpatine reference, maybe Revenge of the Sith. I don't know. Nuvo Vindi, he does say, "I am creating life," and that reminded me of Palpatine saying that to create life.
That reminded me of Frankenstein. I thought that was a Frankenstein reference.
Really?
Like, it's alive, that sort of thing. I got a very science fiction, like, this is one of the most science fiction-y things we've gotten in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
An evil scientist creating, a scary virus. That, by the way, you can see. Imagine how much more scary the coronavirus would be if you could see it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I know that's ridiculous, and, like, you can't see viruses, but, like, imagine if you could, though.
Yeah, the whole blue haze thing kind of confused me.
It was a visual tool. That's what it was.
I know. It was totally a visual tool. It was totally, again, totally for the children.
And
so, I can't really.
It's a show not tell thing,
Yeah. The one thing I noticed was we see again this debate that. Was it last episode where we talked about Jedi Crash and the Lorman episodes?
Yeah, I think that was last episode. Yeah.
Okay, well, whenever we talked about that, I think this again brings up the same moral debate as in that arc, where one character may have the urge to save one life that's important to them or important to the Republic or the Jedi, and
with Padme.
And how do you weigh that against the well-being of many other people? Like,
yeah.
Obi-Wan is willing to potentially sacrifice
Padme
and sacrifice the clones and potentially even sacrifice all of Naboo
and
to
Ahsoka,
prevent the virus. Yeah. And Ahsoka. And potentially and so in his mind he's saying, well, if we let Naboo be infected, but if that gives us a better chance, like if Naboo's infected while we go in guns blazing to defeat the droids, that's worth it because it won't go farther than Naboo. Yeah. And on the other hand, we have Anakin saying, we can't do that. Like, Padme's in there, Ahsoka's in there. These are people he cares. Rex, too. All people he cares deeply about. So it's the argument about, how are you going to risk many lives to
save
the one? Yeah. And we see, again, the line being drawn of where Anakin and Ahsoka fall on that versus where Obi-Wan and, I guess, the other Jedi might fall on that. I have some trivia that I could mention.
Low-hanging fruit, let's do this.
All right, low-hanging fruit, some trivia. This is from the StarWars.com watch-along guide. It's very useful. It's some fun trivia in case anyone hasn't seen that. I wanted to pass it along here. This was actually something I was wondering about during the episode. The laboratory was likely built, according to StarWars.com, so canon, during the original invasion of Naboo in the Phantom Menace, possibly at the behest of Darth Sidious. And this is, the orange clones are the clone ordnance specialists, or bomb squad clones. Side note, these are some of my favorite clones. As a young kid, I think I had the Clone Bomb Squad battle pack maybe in Lego, perhaps. So I think that those clones made quite an impression on me for that reason, and that is also why maybe I think I get super excited when they show up, because I don't know if they show up again. But yeah, I think they're pretty cool.
They're awesome. Yeah, I totally dig them. Here's a weird thing. I don't know if you noticed this with the Blue Shadow Virus. At the end of Blue Shadow Virus, the episode, it seemed done. Like there wasn't a cliffhanger. It seemed resolved.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Really
because
odd.
You're right. That's a good point. But I think I kind of like it, thinking about it now, because it kind of reverses the usual story arc that we see in the Clone Wars, where when we have these multi-episode arcs of 2 or 3 episodes, the first or second episode, or each episode, will leave off on a cliffhanger. Whereas on this episode, it's kind of an interesting twist where you think it's all okay, you think it's over, and then next week comes out, boom, you're still there. All of a sudden, like, plot twist, there's another problem. Maybe it is.
The only reason I have a problem with it. The only reason I have a problem with it is not because of that in itself inherently. It's because of another problem that it links up to and makes a little bit more questionable.
What does it link up to?
That this arc is only 2 episodes long. Because I feel like what I felt like is the next episode, we'll get to this, but Mystery of Thousand Moons had to create another problem and then quickly wrap it up in the same episode which had created it, and also go to another planet. It messed, in my opinion, with the pacing of Mystery of Thousand Moons. I'm going to get into this later. The reason I like the first episode, Blue Shadow Virus, more than Mystery of Thousand Moons, was because of pacing. It felt like Blue Shadow Virus had a steady pace, as most Clone Wars episodes did. I felt like the biggest flaw with Mystery of Thousand Moons is I wrote down, I will say this episode zipped along quicker than Rise of Skywalker in its zippiest moments, which was a little off to me. And then I'll say how they could have fixed it when we get more into Mystery of Thousand Moons. But I felt like we really zipped around from one thing to another in Mystery of Thousand Moons, and it didn't like land the impact of any of the things as hard as I wanted it to. That's just me, though.
That's interesting. So you think that you think that it felt as if there was you felt as if it had already resolved naturally, and then they kind of slapped on another problem on the end.
No, I think they had another problem in mind. I think even if like usually the problem, we find out the next problem, we find out the cliffhanger at the end of the first episode, and so do the characters. I think even if we got the problem presented to us at the end of the first episode, but the characters didn't, like, that would have still been creative, but I think it would have, like, maybe slowed the pacing and made it more reasonable in the second episode. Just my thoughts.
Okay, that's fair. Are ready to move on to Mystery of a Thousand Moons?
Yep.
All right. The fortune cookie here is a single chance is a galaxy of hope. What do you think of that?
Yeah, sure. Like, it's whatever. Like, I'm not so
funny because. Sorry, go on.
I'm not as crazy about this fortune cookie. The fortune cookies, I gotta say, with the notable exception of Blue Shadow Virus, have been letting me down recently. I feel like they become better as the show goes on, just like the show itself.
I think there were some good ones in the beginning. I feel like they have slackened as we're moving through this season, which, I don't know. I feel like the fortune cookies have become a large part of the way we kind of dissect and give our take on these episodes. Yeah. So I guess I see where you're coming from. But that's funny because I actually really like this fortune cookie. It is very blunt, I will say that. But I think it ties nicely into the idea of persevering no matter what. And how often in Star Wars the protagonist has only one slim opportunity to succeed, one tiny sliver of hope, and they have to hang on to that for dear life, milk it for all it's worth, use that opportunity for everything that they can in order to get another sliver, another foothold to try and keep on climbing, metaphorically speaking, and so on and so on. Kind of reminds me of Jyn Erso's quote in Rogue One, can't remember exactly how that went, but it was like, we're gonna keep taking every chance we can get.
Let's get on to the episode, Mystery of Thousand Moons. We find out that they didn't unvirus the virus, as I wrote in my notes. So they have to unvirus the virus. I forget what it was. I think, it was the bombs that had the virus in it. One of the canisters was taken out before they undetonated the bombs. So, and like that little droid that Vindi had took it, and so it was still, the virus was still there, and it spreads. They got a huge there's a huge amount of it that spreads, and eventually Ahsoka and Rex get the Blue Shadow virus in the lab, and the virus spreads again, and as a result of that, Anakin and Obi-Wan have to go to the planet of Iego, I think.
Iego, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, to get a special route that's been discovered to be the antidote. Let's flash back, actually, to episode 35 of Vindi Galaxy. Jacob, let's flash back to episode number 10. Did you know we referenced this episode? I was listening to it earlier because I knew it was in one of our earlier episodes. We referenced this episode in episode 10 of Vindi Galaxy. Argue an angel, throw in a line, like never hear from it again. But then it gets picked up by the Clone Wars in its season 1 episode, Mystery of a Thousand Moons.
Oh, Mystery of a Thousand Moons.
He
actually goes to the moons of Iego.
It's called the Phantom Menace.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Here's how I know that. Jacob, I want to ask one question. Are you an angel?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this is one of the weirdest parts about this episode. Dave Filoni saw 9-year-old Anakin trying to flirt with 14-year-old Padme and decided, I want to make an episode about that.
That is hilarious to me.
It's so weird.
I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it is.
No, it's not.
It is
but
weird.
I just think it's so strange. So they go to Iego to get this route. Before we get there, I forgot about something else. What was it? Oh yeah, this is something I do love about Mystery of a Thousand Moons. That I think was really interesting. Nuvo Vindi was not the villain of the Mystery of a Thousand Moons. The Blue Shadow virus was.
How so?
It was one of the, the ticking clock they had was that Padme and Ahsoka, later Padme, but Ahsoka and Rex got the virus, and if they don't do something soon, they could get, severely injured or even die. And while that was Nuvo Vindi's fault, Nuvo Vindi was in Republic custody the entire episode. So I love that it was one of the first times that we did not have a sentient enemy.
You're right. It was kind of a man versus nature. Not men specifically, but that term when we're talking about different types of conflicts. Yeah, it's human versus nature as opposed to human versus human versus society, which I think is interesting. We don't really see that.
We don't see that much in the Clone Wars.
A ton. And when it does come up, it usually just means that it's clones or Jedi stomping some animals that are attacking them. Yeah. And I think this is much more entertaining than that, personally.
It's much more thought-provoking. Yeah. So they get onto Iego, and this is one of the weirdest parts of the episode to me. They see a bunch of battle droids, and Anakin cuts down. Obi-Wan says 17, and then Anakin corrects him, 18 battle droids. But the weird part was the battle droids weren't shooting at him.
I think Anakin was just seeing red.
No, of course, but that's what I mean. It was Anakin was cutting down the battle droids, but the battle droids weren't shooting him. I'm not saying it's weird on Anakin's part. I'm saying it's weird on the Clone Wars part. It's weird to see battle droids that are not hostile. And then we find out that this kid, Jaybo, Was
Jaybo. I have some things to say about him. Oh my god.
I have a weird headcanon about Jaybo that I think is totally canon now.
What's the headcanon?
You go and say your thoughts about Jaybo, and then I'll because
Okay.
I've been talking a lot, and I want to give you some.
So
room.
first off, Jaybo's voice just cracks me up. He sounds like the ultimate young little dude bro in the making. But this kid's situation is seriously messed up. Where his parents or guardians? Is he in school? I don't know does he interact with anyone other than those droids that he reprogrammed?
Well, we see him later in that council room on Iego, so
we do. That's true, but still, that's not the same as having friends
Absolutely
your age.
not.
It seems like it doesn't seem like he has any peers, and I think that this made me think that in Star Wars we take a lot of things for granted.
Yeah,
that are actually super screwed up. The way we see so many of these characters who are like forced to be on their own and independent from a really young age.
Again,
and never
it's
really
suspension of disbelief.
A support network.
It's suspension of disbelief, but in this show, we suspend absolutely zero disbelief in some things sometimes. So, that's what In a Galaxy is about. It's talking about the things you never thought to talk about.
What's your headcanon?
Okay. So I was watching The Last Jedi recently for doing trivia, and this is headcanon. Jaybo is the grandfather of Tamiri Blag.
Okay, who's Tamiri Blag? You're gonna
Broom
have to Broom Boy.
Yeah.
How do you figure that one out?
So here's my theory. This is mostly a metaphorical theory about how the characters operate, but like Jaybo sees firsthand the magic of the Jedi and Anakin and Obi-Wan, Jedi Knights in their prime, and we see Tamiri Blag at the end of The Last Jedi, and in the middle too, share a lot of that like bright-eyed optimism about the Jedi, and they have that whole scene where his stablemates are explaining the Battle of Crate to him, and how Luke Skywalker saved the day, and all of that kind of stuff, and I would love to think that his grandfather, before he got abandoned and forced to work in the stable on Cantonica, I love to think that his grandfather would tell him about the good old days of the Jedi Knights when they'd, they'd clear a seemingly impossible to clear blockade and free a planet. Like, it's a weird theory, and it totally is probably not canon, but I like to think it is.
That's interesting.
I'm weird.
Definitely an interesting theory. I don't really... Yeah. Definitely a headcanon. I don't see
Definitely a headcanon. Definitely
a headcanon in that I don't see any evidence for it, but there's interesting no evidence. To think. It's interesting to think about. So yeah.
There's absolutely no evidence. And then we find out that Iego is blockaded by this thing called Droll. This was the weirdest part of the episode for me. I'm like, I don't remember a ghost. Because I hadn't seen this episode in a while. I'm like, I don't remember a ghost, but are they actually going to go there? Turns out no. But, by the way, Jacob, this is also fitting with all the references to this movie in this arc, but they describe Joel as the Phantom Ruler who destroys anything that leaves the planet. You know what another way of describing that is?
What?
A Phantom Menace.
Oh my gosh.
But
is we go back, and I think this is where things really kick up a notch. Once Ahsoka and Rex and some of the clones get infected, and then later Padme, and then once they contact Anakin about it, I mean, obviously, we know what his reaction is. He goes nuts. Don't understand how no one sees that. He sees
red, as you said, yeah.
Yeah, he totally sees red. I think the episode got surprisingly grim, and I think there was a pleasing kind of edge of urgency and a lot of darkness to it, but I think that they could have played that up a lot more.
Yeah,
if it was done in a later season.
I remember.
So I kind of think they shouldn't have put it this early in the show. Personally.
Yeah, I thought the stakes were going to be higher. I was let down a little bit by the seeming lack of stakes.
Yeah, they didn't do. I think because they had to keep it, because the show was still finding its footing, and because this was when they were still probably like trying to keep it a little lighter. It felt like it felt like they didn't really fully know how to, or maybe it wasn't a matter of knowing how, but not a matter of wanting to really play it up the way that we would expect, like now having experienced how dark and grim parts of the Clone Wars and Rebels got.
Yeah.
But I do think that I like the way it kind of tied back, the Ahsoka and the clones getting infected, tied back to the fortune cookie, a single chance is a galaxy of hope, how even after they get infected, they don't lose hope. They still know they have a chance to maybe make some kind of a difference, maybe keep it on Naboo, maybe keep the virus in the vault. And Ahsoka says, Ahsoka even says what she says, she says, don't worry about me. We still have a chance to stop the virus. And I think that's that right there, that felt super impactful. But again, it felt like it was a little bit underutilized. Like they had the chance to really make us think about what that meant for Ahsoka to be saying that, someone who was so young and so kind of at this point a little bit headstrong.
There's a lot of talk about how Ahsoka was so well developed as a character as opposed to, I've been hearing it a lot as opposed to Rey, which I don't particularly like. But regardless of that, I think we underestimate, like, Ahsoka, like, was already, and I'm not saying she has a lack of development. I think her development throughout the show is great. I'm just saying I think we downplay sometimes the level of maturity Ahsoka already had at the beginning of the Clone Wars.
I think that this is a moment, like, we don't necessarily see it before this. I think this is a moment where we can say, this is I think we can, for me at least, I can kind of say safely that this is a moment when we see Ahsoka maturing, perhaps. And I think that regardless of whether or not she would have done this when she was still at the temple or whatnot, I think it's a big moment for her.
Let's talk about, first of all, Obi-Wan has a bad feeling about this episode. They fight off this Venus flytrap thing. Like, what the heck was that?
I thought it was kind of interesting, the idea of a carnivorous plant,
Yeah, it was a little wacky to me.
Does it have lungs? Can it move air? Why is it roaring? Why is it screeching? But, it's Star Wars.
It was a little goofy to me, but it's Star Wars.
It was suspend disbelief. Disbelief.
Here's a so we find out the droll is a separatist trap. The separatists planted when they left the system of Iego, which was interesting. And Anakin spends the rest of the episode mostly trying to take it down. Here's a collection of quotes from Obi-Wan and Anakin that I found very interesting this episode. I don't know if you caught on to these. Obi-Wan says to Anakin, a great leap forward often requires first taking 2 steps back. Basically, sometimes you have to backtrack a little bit before you can really get what you want. Or, here's another interpretation I had of it. Sometimes, before you take a good jump, you have to first take a couple steps back, literally from the issue, and look around at it.
Yeah,
see the bigger picture. But then Anakin says back, and sometimes all it requires is the will to jump. Which is, I think, an interesting juxtaposition. Obi-Wan saying that sometimes you have to think a little bit more carefully and deliberate a little bit before you make a big decision. And Anakin saying, if you do that too long, then the decision gets...
It gets made for you, often.
Oh, I was going to go with the decision, like, if you take too long looking around to jump, you often lose the will to jump. Sometimes it's better to look around at your options and see what you have. And sometimes, if you've already done that, you just gotta go for it anyway. Which I think is an interesting lesson that I don't feel like is really covered in the episode as much as I'd like it to be, but that's just me.
I can see that. I think it's an interesting. I think I like that moment because I think both of the statements are true.
Yeah.
Sometimes like you have to look around, take your time, take some steps back, kind of go back to the basics. And if we're talking about a major life decision or a quick decision, and sometimes you do just have to. Sometimes there does come a point where you have to say more deliberation isn't going to help.
Yeah.
We gotta do something one way or another. It has to happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Something
now.
has to happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna go now to my final thing from this episode.
All right.
At the end of the episode, they're getting they get the root and they get back to Naboo in time, and Padme and Ahsoka and Rex and all the clones make a full recovery. The ones who haven't died anyway. But Padme's on a stretcher. She still has the virus. She has not gotten the cure yet. And Anakin is standing right above her. They take hands.
That to me is maybe he inoculated himself somehow by taking. Maybe they took doses of the antidote.
6 feet, buddy. 6 feet.
I know. That part did mystify me because, again, suspend disbelief, and also, if Anakin, if there's anyone who would break.
Yeah, the rules.
If there's anyone who would risk himself just to,
and also we don't know how contagious the blue shadow virus is, and all.
I mean, we know that if they react so strongly to it, when we know that it was a plague hundreds of years ago, it had to have been pretty contagious at the very.
But we don't know how you can pass it and all of that stuff, and we just don't know the how the blue shadow virus operates. But still,
no, we don't.
6
we know
feet,
nothing about
buddy.
It. Yeah, 6 feet. 6 feet. For sure.
Wear a mask.
Yeah, please.
Jeez.
Anything else for this?
No, I think that's really it. Which one do you like better? Which one did you like better?
I think it's hard to pick. For me, it's really hard to pick specific episodes because of how intertwined they feel.
Yeah.
And they just feel like one unit, sort of. But I guess I would pick the second episode.
I'd pick the first. Personally, I'd pick Blue Shadow Virus.
What did you feel about this batch of episodes? Or it's not a batch, it's 2. How did you feel about them overall?
They were okay. I actually I expected them to be worse for me because of the whole too soon thing. But they're probably gonna end up in the season 1 ranking. We're gonna do a ranking of all the season 1 episodes at the end. They're probably gonna end up towards the lower half, but not ridiculously
not too
low.
far.
Yeah.
I thought they were okay. I thought they were good. I thought they had a lot of potential, but I just think that they didn't really make it as impactful as they could have. Because they were trying to keep it. It felt like they were trying to keep it light.
Yeah,
and that got in the way.
There wasn't a lot objectively wrong with these episodes, but they just weren't great.
Yeah. I could say that.
Okay, well, I think it's time for us to get to everyone's favorite part of the show.
1/4 portion.
We got another 1/4 portion segment. This week, it's a long story. The segment where we explain Star Wars very badly to each other.
Do you want to go first?
Have one. I'll go first this time. A man lives a very nice life in a palace until his beloved pet is killed by a rock.
A man lives a wonderful life in a palace until his beloved pet is killed by a rock?
Yeah.
Ooh. Is it the life story of Jabba the Hutt?
It's not Jabba the Hutt.
Ah, man, I was thinking of him in the Rancor.
You're very close.
The guy who keeps the Rancor in the Rancor?
Mala Keely.
I feel so bad for him, man. Yeah. He and the Rancor had a real strong bond.
Yeah, I got to Return of the Jedi this morning in my trivia watch, and so I just watched that part this morning. I found out, actually, I was looking up stuff on Mala Keely. I found out that he wandered quite a bit in the Tatooine Desert after Patissa, that's the Rancor's name, Patissa's death.
Patissa.
Yeah. He wandered a bunch in the desert, and eventually he was tracked down by the Red Key Raiders, who were taking over the Tatooine village of Freetown. And guess who he came under the protection of?
Who?
Cobb Vanth.
Wow. Man, Cobb Vanth is just showing up everywhere these days, feels like.
You know what? I said to someone, I guess that just goes to show sometimes both suns shine on a womp rat's tail.
So that's a Tatooine saying, I assume. Two suns,
it gets
womp
said
rats.
in the Marshall. Cobb Vanth said
Really?
in the Marshall, yeah.
Oh, I guess I missed that part.
It's
Right.
in when they're on the speeders. Go ahead with yours.
Okay. An overly religious dude takes a kid he just adopted to his place of worship. The kid finds dead bodies, hallucinates about dying, then a disembodied voice leads him to a glowing rock.
I think I know what this one is.
What do you think it is?
I think it's the tragedy.
No, it's actually not the tragedy. Yeah, let me know if you need me to read it again. It was a little bit longer this
Say
time.
it again. Say it again.
Okay. A very religious dude takes a kid he just adopted into his place of worship.
Yeah, no, I got it.
The kid finds dead bodies, okay?
Path of the Jedi.
Yes, it is Path of the Jedi from Season 1 of Star Wars Rebels. The overly religious dude is Kanan Jarrus. The kid he just adopted is Ezra Bridger. He faces his fears.
You see why I thought it was the tragedy, though.
I don't, actually. How come?
The glowing rock, Tython.
Oh, yeah.
I missed the place of worship thing. Shoot.
I could understand how you...
Adopted son was the thing that tripped me up.
Yeah, that fits very well.
Yeah.
But people who say that baby, or people who say that Grogu and Din Djarin is the first positive father-son relationship, I don't think they've seen Star Wars Rebels. At least not recently.
Fair point. Okay, I think that's going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Next week is a crazy week for us. Next week we are recording the 1-year anniversary of Star Wars in a Galaxy. We're not doing anything special, like, for the actual episode. Like, here's what I mean. We're not having a special episode. It's going to be episode 36 with some special parts of it. We're going to be reading questions, hot takes, 6 degrees, anything. Send them in to us for our 1-year anniversary. We've already gotten some submissions. In addition to that, we're also going to be watching, I think, one of Jacob's favorite arcs of Star Wars, The Clone Wars. I think. Tell me if I'm wrong about this, Jacob. I think you're about to get really excited. I'm very excited for this. More for your sake, because I like these episodes, but I think you love these episodes. Next week, Storm over Ryloth, Innocence of Ryloth, and Victory on Ryloth.
I don't know why. I absolutely love the Ryloth arc. So
yeah, it's gonna be really great. It's gonna be 1 year of Star Wars in a Galaxy, and not only that, it's going to be our last Clone Wars arc episode of Season 4 of Star Wars in a Galaxy. The week after will be a finale, and then the week after that will be a special episode that we already have planned, and it's gonna be quite a bit of fun, and that's where it leaves us pretty much for January in Star Wars in a Galaxy. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Make sure to follow us on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. We will be there. You should subscribe to us on YouTube. We're looking into doing some more live streams, and just like you can find all of our podcast episodes as videos on there. Star Wars in a Galaxy. Follow us on Twitter at In a Galaxy Pod, Instagram at Star Wars in a Galaxy. Yeah, I think unless there's anything else. Oh yeah, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating. It really helps us with visibility. If there's nothing else, I think may the Force be with you always.